This sermon is called Bless the Animals and Flowers, and it's by Reverend Victoria Weinstein and myself, Frieda Gillespie. The reason I mention Victoria Weinstein is because she wrote a sermon about our relationship to animals, and I've used quite a few of her words in my sermon this morning. We love the ones that live among us, the soft and comforting friends who purr in our laps, who scramble around in endearing ways in cages on the floor of the family room, or who sleep loyally at the foot of the bed at night, or perhaps right in the bed. We often hate or fear the ones who slither upon us in the grass or hiss at us. The tiny ones who crawl surreptitiously through the cereal boxes despite our best efforts at housekeeping, and the ones who threaten our campsites with midnight raids on food storage boxes. We hold our noses at the striped ones who invade the landscape with the aroma of their fear, and we spray bitter chemicals to keep away the long-limbed, garden-munching ones who scamper into our yards under the cover of darkness. Animals are not only all around us, they live within us. A quick trip to the zoo or the barnyard holds up a hilarious mirror to our own bestial qualities. You eat like a pig, we say, or foxy fellow, isn't he, of the one who behaves slyly at the office or in the family. She works like a dog, eats like a bird, or in the famous words of Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Try to organize a group of rugged individualists, we say, is like trying to herd cats. But we don't want to be a pack of lemmings or even a flock of sheep. He gets my goat. The construction workers wolf whistled the girls passing by. Timid as a mouse. Whether we see our fellow creatures on a regular basis or not, we certainly cannot manage very much descriptive language without them. Historically, we cannot manage much without our non-human animals at all. They have provided covering for our fragile skins, food for our empty bellies, bones for our bones for tools, oil for light, free labor for our fields and farms. Today we thank them. The only visible reminders of our connection to the creaturely world for most of us comes through the companionship of those animal friends we call our pets. For the more politically correct animal advocates, animal companion is the preferred term, as it takes away the connotation of ownership. After all, do we really own our pets, or do they own us? From my own experience as a caretaker of 4 cats and a dog, I would vote for the latter option. Yes, we are responsible for their food, shelter, and veterinary care, and to that extent are their keepers. But truth be told, they keep us just as surely as we keep them. But they keep us through bonds of unconditional affection. We keep them through care, and they keep us by loyalty. By their silent companionship and their extravagant giving forth of affection, whether we particularly deserve it or not, our animal companions also call us to a more morally conscious position in the world. Living with a pet puts us a little bit closer to what Albert Schweitzer called reverence for life. They represent the natural world, messy and volatile in microcosm. On one level, we simply live with the delight of our animals' presence. How can we but admire their absolute comfort with themselves? As a young person, I loved to walk for hours in areas of wildness and loved seeing the plants and animals there. I was struck by the fact that animals have no shame about themselves. They are wholly at ease with who they are and need no one's approval. I felt a little admonished by this because at the time I was hyper aware of other people's opinions of me. We cherish animals' complete innocence, their hilarious and equally adorable and irritating habits, their grace and their inner peace. They ask so little. They respond to the simple pleasures of existence with such fullness of spirit. They can feel pain, and I, for one, do not doubt that they possess souls and have some kind of inner life that we probably will never be able to comprehend. Years ago, I led my first blessing of the animals. It was a zoo. There were dogs and cats, guinea pigs, lizards, snakes, and even a cage of lovely finches. All of these creatures were very well behaved. We had as guest musicians a couple of women who played pieces for four hands. They were very accomplished. I let them know beforehand that there were going to be many animals in the room. And we did the blessing in the sanctuary. They were game, so to speak. In truth, the only creature that acted badly was my dog, who whined and complained because he couldn't get close to me. Anyway, it all went well, and during the last piece of piano music, the entire room was silent, except for the finches, which were joyfully singing along with the music. After they finished playing, I spoke to the pianists and told them they were really good sports for playing on this Sunday and apologized for the loud birds. They said that last piece we played was about birds. They were delighted that the finches seemed to know this. Gary Kowalski is a Unitarian Universalist minister and animal advocate. He tells a simple story of a quiet moment in the life of an African baboon. A friend who worked in Africa with endangered species showed me a photograph he had taken of a mandrill, sitting quietly and gazing at a setting sun. The fading light apparently affected the baboon as it would you or me. The mandrill stopped to muse, experiencing a moment of contemplation and enchantment. When we allow the beauty of species other than our own to really touch us in a spiritual way, we will inevitably come to the question, what is really meant by the commandment in the book of Genesis that mankind have dominion over the other creatures of the world? Dominion, of course, implies domination, and we have certainly used the advantages of consciousness, intellectual power, and the opposable thumb to impose our will on all of the creative world. According to a year 2000 report by World Watch Institute, 11% of all 8.6 known species, that must be 8 million known species of birds living on Earth, and 34% of all fish are now endangered. 25% of all mammals are at risk. Gary Kowalski reminds us that the Hebrew word, which is usually given as dominion in English, did imply ruling over, but only as a wise king or queen rules over and protects their subjects, or as God reigns over creation, sustaining, cherishing, and safeguarding every living thing. Mahatma Gandhi once famously remarked that the measure of a society's morality could be measured by how they treat their animals. I cringe and change the channel when that advertisement for the ASPCA comes on with pictures of horribly abused animals. It's so painful to watch. Whatever we do, eat, wear, or consume of animals, we must be mindful of our relationship with the silent ones who share our earth, but who cannot advocate for themselves. Our place at the top of the food chain as the sole possessors of consciousness has for too long been considered a mandate to do what we like with creation and to make decisions for all of the living world, as if our survival and comfort were the only ones that matter. Man is the only animal that blushes, or has to, wrote Mark Twain. If we embrace the Native American spiritual practice of regarding animals as our relations, interacting with them mindfully, prudently, and compassionately, we would have less reason to blush. Many of us idealize animals as innocent, pure beings possessing a special quality of spirit. There are plenty of people who prefer the company of animals to that of humans. However, it is just as easy for humans to project onto animals all of the shadow parts of ourselves that we wish we could rise above. There's a wonderful story about St. Francis that speaks metaphorically to this phenomenon, which I will tell you in a minute. St. Francis is the 13th century Italian patron saint of animals, whose biographers report preaching to birds and other animals. If you're wondering what you would sermonize to birds, I will tell you that Francis preached that they ought to be grateful to God, who cares for them even though they are basically good for nothing but flying around. He put it more poetically than I just did, and the birds reportedly loved the talk and chirped and twittered their approval, flying around him in agreement and appreciation. If you ever go to Assisi, you will be enchanted by the flocks of birds who fly around together from rooftop to rooftop. They seem to be very spiritually advanced birds. According to a famous legend of St. Francis, the people of Gubbio had been terrorized by a wolf who used to come to their village and attack the villagers. He was a ravenous beast, and the people finally got tired living in fear and called on St. Francis for help, as he had the reputation of being able to talk to animals. They sent a delegation to St. Francis and instructed him that he should tell the wolf there is a commandment against killing, for one thing, and that he should follow Jesus' command to love God and neighbors. And because the wolf is still a wolf, St. Francis is supposed to tell the wolf to move to someone else's city. Francis goes into the forest to meet the beast, addressing it as Brother Wolf. He has a nice talk with the wolf and convinces him to stop attacking and killing the townspeople of Gubbio. There is a moment, often depicted in icons of the saint, where the wolf comes forward and puts his paw in Francis's hand in a gesture of covenant. Then Francis returns to the town square. My good people of Gubbio, he tells them, the wolf has been converted, but there is something you must do to assure he will not revert to his old ways. You must feed your wolf. The people are furious, especially with the suggestion that this uninvited beast in their midst is somehow to be regarded as their wolf. But they do feed it, and the killing stops. And so St. Francis speaks to the beast within all of us. Feed your wolf. We had better feed our wolves and own them as our own and pay the consequences. Left unnurtured, wolves will do great damage. Those of you who have gathered here today in the love of your animal companions, thank you for sheltering and caring for these friends. You have perhaps begun to understand that it is impossible to categorize animals as being like us or unlike us. There's no point to those arguments. Animals are quite simply their own selves, almost entirely unknowable to their human companions. They are not angels, and they are not terrible devils, even though at times they may seem like both. Animals are wholly other, mysterious companions to our lives, seen and unseen, tamed and untamed, with wisdom and ways all their own. To live with them and care for them is a privilege, a blessing, an exercise in humility, patience, and respect for difference. This is also the Sunday when we do the flower communion. We thank you for your sending pictures of your gardens and of your pets. I'd like to share a prayer with you for the animals and flowers. Gathered here, we pause to acknowledge our place in creation and our responsibility to it. We lift up grateful hearts to the source of life this day for the infinite variety of creatures, which makes our own existence so much richer. As human beings, stewards of the earth, we extend our blessings to our brothers and sisters of fur and claw, wing and fin, scale and hoof, paws and feathers, and to those non-sentient beings who bring us such beauty in springtime. We promise to live with them in harmony as best we can, to be respectful of the fact that we share the planet together, and to refrain from exploiting them to selfish or abusive ends. We pray today for all the animals who are sick or harmed and for those who love them, that they may find peace at the last and comfort in love shared and remembered. We join our spirits in praise and thanks for those animals who live among us as guides and helpers to the disabled, rescuers of the lost and hurt, and companions to the suffering. We thank them silently in our hearts, knowing that love is the only language we share with them. God, thank you for these, our animal friends and their human companions. And though they are not present in the room, as neither are we, through human love and care, they know that they're loved by you and the Creator of all. If we were together with flowers brought by you from your garden, we would share a flower with others and receive one from them as well. In this way, we symbolize the diversity in our congregation and keep a memento of this beloved community during the time when we are apart. Blessed be.